So I'm recording this particular presentation or this session, knowing that only few students are here in our meeting room this evening. So again, this is the reminder, your assignment, a very, very short essay containing 30 to 40 words only, explaining your application of statistics, your personal experience with statistics. So again, the deadline of submission is on April 30th. That's on Friday via Quipper. So moving on, let's have the continuation of our discussion about statistics. Are you familiar with this? The types, or in other books, these are known as the branches of statistics. Can anyone differentiate the two based on your prior knowledge? Statistics has two types or branches. We have the descriptive as well as the inferential statistics. Do we have any ideas from the class about the difference between these two types of statistics? Sa inyong senior high school under the probability and statistics na subject, I think the differentiating tarong sa inyuha, di ba? Ang descriptive and inferential statistics. So, wala tayong mga ideas. Yes, we have from Miss Namo. Ay, okay, lahi ang iyahang because she has concern. But I appreciate the effort, Miss Namok, even though kusog daw ang ulan sa ilahang lugar, but you are here attending our meeting. Well appreciated ang effort. It's okay. And then, we have the answer from Mr. Casio. Mailhan ang descriptive, like, nagatuyok-tuyok lang siya sa isa ka lugar. Oh, that is the idea of Mr. Casio. So I think there are a lot of ideas that we need to check about this one because this is actually a general knowledge dapat. The fact na statistics is part of the mathematics in the modern world, a basic subject in college, so this should be a common knowledge to all of us. Descriptive, according to Miss Batukan, is quali, inferential is quanti as far as she can remember. So there are a lot of things that we need to clarify about the two. So tonight, we're going to check all the misconceptions. So there are only two types of statistics. We have descriptive and inferential. So the first type is descriptive. So please take a look at that particular slide. Ms. Sonodan is telling us describing or classifying in an objective and non-judgmental way. I think you are trying to describe or define the descriptive. Kaya ang first word yung gihatag is describing. Describing, descriptive. Okay. So the use of pictorial diagrams, graphs, charts, those examples in our previous meeting, if you can still remember, we have the population, the profile of the voters in the Philippines. So those are examples of descriptive statistics. And Ms. Sonodan is actually correct in mentioning that it's all about describing a particular set of information or data. You are actually doing that when you are summarizing. For example, you have your grade and then you are summarizing for the first semester, these are my subjects and these are my grades. So that is already descriptive statistics. You have a collection of all your information and then you are trying to summarize that in an organized manner para mas masabtan siya. So here are some of the examples of descriptive statistics. We have here, this is taken from the MS Excel. You can use that one to summarize their respondents and then the age, the gender, and so on. And we can also have the presentation of such data using the graph to identify kung pila ka percentage ang naa dito for that particular group of data. So it's more on describing. So this is another example of a descriptive statistics. As you can see right now, the population in the Philippines. So we have the year, we have the number, we have the percentage, pila ka buok babae, pila ka buok lalaki, pila ang percentage nila. And with the age group, pila ang tigulang na, pila ang mga baby pa, pila ang bata pa. So these are all describing our data set So that is the meaning of descriptive statistics. So in the context of your research in your senior high school, because that is the experience, siguro latest experience that you have, which is related to statistics. So ang descriptive statistics dito nga inyohang ma-relate is katong nagkuha gani mo og katong data ninyo tapos gi-organize ninyo tapos after that inyohang gikuha siguro average. Nagkuha ba mo average sa inyohang data sa inyohang senior high school nga research? And nagkuha po siguro mo og unsa ang highest value, unsa ang lowest value. And are you familiar also with standard deviation? Gikuha ba ninyo ang iyahang measure of pila ka ang iyahang pagka-spread out sa iyahang mga measures? So all of those things relate to descriptive statistics. So the frequency, for example, pila ka buok ang imuhang gikuha ang mga respondents, pila dito ang babae, pila ang lalaki, or you can express that one into percentage, just like this one. 21% ang 5 to 14 years old, 20% ang 15 to 24, and so on. So this is all about descriptive statistics. So in terms of topics, kung descriptive statistics lang ang ato ang course, because this is actually a course or a subject, if you are taking up BS statistics or if you are major in mathematics. So kung descriptive statistics lang ang imong subject, so you will be concentrating on these for particular topics. The frequency distribution, the central tendency, which includes katong ato na sabtan sa una, the mean, median, and the mode. We will also have a review of these topics for this particular subject. Sa ato ang computational parts sa statistics, mo na ni siya ato ang ipang-compute. Aside from the measures of the central tendency, we also have the measures of dispersion or variation katong spread out of your data set. We have the range, standard deviation, and variance. So all in all, murag nag-describe lang ka sa imuhang data. Descriptive statistics ang tawag dito. The inferential statistics, on the other hand, this is the other type of statistics, is all about digging deeper. So gikan kasi imong descriptive statistics, you are trying to dig deeper to make generalizations. So inferential is from the word infer, di ba? When you are trying to infer, you are trying to conclude. So kung sa logic pa ni siya, you are trying to deduce. So unsa man imong himuon nga basis ani para naa kay mahimo nga conclusion. So dapat mo gamiton po to nimong descriptive statistics kay para mo na siya ang higher level niya. Inferential statistics, you are trying to get something out of your data. So it consists of generalizing from the sample to population, performing hypothesis testing. Di ba naman tayo mga hypothesis atong before ta nag-start sa ato ang research? If you can still recall, nag-hypothesis man mo, di ba? Testing. 0.05 level of significance usually ang ginagamit nato sa ato ang academic writing sa study. And then usually ang hypothesis nato is wala, negative siya. No, there is no particular significant relationship. There is no, so puro sinana ato ang hypothesis. And kung mag-conduct na tag-inferential statistics, then we will find out kung tinuod ba to atong hypothesis by using different tools. So daghang mga tools ginagamit sa inferential statistics. So dili na mean, median, mode, range, katong mga standard deviation ang gamiton dili kay higher level naman siya of calculation. Identifying relationships, part ni siya sa inferential statistics. For example, you are studying about the mental health of a student o kang iyaha pong score sa iyahang test. So that nabay relationship ana. So dili kay siya makuha kung dito ra kataban sa descriptive statistics. Makakuha lang kag mga scores, then imo lang i-describe under descriptive sa statistics. Pero pag magkuha na kag relationship, nabay relationship ang the state of your mental health and your academic performance. So maghimo na kag mga calculations dito, mag-infer na ka. So that will be part right now of inferential statistics. Making predictions is also part of statistics. And when you are making predictions, that is closely related to doing mga probabilities. That is why ang statistics and probability are always going hand in hand. Partner na sila. Probability and statistics. Usually, mo na siya ang title sa subject. So if you are taking up BS statistics, this is another subject. Or if you are major in mathematics, this is another thorough course that you need to understand better. Pero for all of us, since this is a minor subject, general subject man ni siya, at least naatay glimpse o understanding about unsa ni nga mga topics all about. Even though dito mag-dig deeper. So, klaro ba? Can you hear me? Badunggan pa ko ba sinatay issues about connectivity diri ha? So, thank you
Sir,
so much.
madunggan sir.
Thank you, Mr. Galot. And I would like to acknowledge the answers. So naghimo jud og research si Miss Dalalamon. I would like to read para may balaan po sa uban, katong dili kay maklaro. Inference is the process of using data analysis to infer properties of an underlying distribution of probability. Yes, tama to siya, Ms. Dalalamon. That is why ang probability connected yun siya sa inferential statistics. Inferential statistical analysis infers properties of the population, for example, by testing hypotheses, so that's the plural form, and deriving estimates. So thank you so much for the research that you have made, Ms. Dalalamon. And we're going to dig deeper as well about that one in our next slide. So take a look at this. This is a good example of what Ms. Dalalamon mentioned a while ago. Kaya nag-mention man siya og population, di ba? So when you are dealing with a particular study, naman dyan kayo i-consider nga population. Kisam, aha man ka magkuhag data. So population man na siya kung sila tanan. And when we are trying to study the population, and if your scope is very big, for example, ang imuhang i-consider is ang tibuok tao sa Philippines. If you are, for example, an employee of SWS, yung kanang nagahimog survey, di ba? Tapos hapit ng election. So, imong population dyan i-consider is tanan mga voters in the Philippines. So, it would be very hard, difficult, and dili pud kay siya that feasible, mahuman nimo ang imong survey kung each and every individual imuhang duolon, di ba? So, dili na mo gawas ang katong sampling. I don't know kung na-mention ba tong sampling ni Ms. Dalalamon kasi part na siya sa inferential statistics. So kaning population daghan man ni kayo sila, so magkuha lang ka og part of the population which we can call as the sample, mao to sila karon ang mag-represent. Even though gamay lang sila mo na sa SWS survey kanang sa mga Pulse Asia nga mga survey, matingala ka lang, naghatag lagi sila survey, wala ko ka-appeal, wala ko ni answer, di ba? Nganong maun mi ni siya ang highest karon nga mudaugay nga president, for example, wala magi ko nila pagipangutana, so you may ask yourself that. It's because gamay lang po nilang kuhaon. So out of pila ka voters in the Philippines, for example, usually ang ginakuha lang na nila is pinakadaghan na siguro ng 1,000. Inana ilang ginakuha. Pila gud ka book ang voters ana. Tapos gina-sampling nila randomly. So mo nang dili ka mapilian siguro is because dili tanan gitagaan og chance. But even though 1,000 lang na sila, 1,000 plus or almost 2,000 lang for example ay lang nakuha nga data, but that can prove nga mao na to siya ang voice sa majority. So pwede nimo siya himuong conclusive ang answer sa sampling. That is part of the inferential statistics. So here is an example of an inferential statistics. This is a study. Ako ang naghimo ani siya together with the Human Resource Office of the University of Mindanao, Tagum Campus. So I am the statistician of this particular study. Ang among gistudyhan is ang level of engagement sa mga empleyado sa UM, kung ganahan ba sila mag-perform sa ilahang trabaho. So kung nag-concentrate lang mi sa descriptive statistics, so nagkuha lang mo pila ka buok ang mga nagtrabaho sa academic, katong mga program heads, mga faculty members, academic size man to sila. And then sa mga non-academic, katong mga naay mga different offices, naay mga admin offices, like katong director, katong mga under sa records and admissions, sa student accounting, and so on. So kung dito na mi taman sa descriptive, so nagkuha lang mi pila ka buok sila, nya unsa ilahang level of engagement, ang general mean, 5 is the highest and 0 is the lowest. So inana lang siya taman. Pero nag-dig deeper man mi sa inferential statistics, would like to know kung kinsa ang mas engaged, ang katong nagtrabaho sa academic or sa non-academic. So we would like to see if there is a significant difference sa level of engagement nila when it comes to work. So ang hypothesis ani is walay difference, pareha lang sila. Pero it turned out during our testing, we employed the t-test. Kabalo man ta t-test, di ba? Familiar man na sa ito. Independent samples t-test is actually part of the inferential statistics to identify the level of significance sa difference nila. It turned out na naa sila yung significant difference. Mas engage, mas ganahan mo adto sa work generally ang mga nagtrabaho sa non-academic. Katong dili kayo sila naga-face sa estudyante gani. They are more engaged compared to those academic employees. So kato siya, na-generalize to namo siya, pero wala siya na tagaan tanan og survey because we had sampling only. So that is the meaning of inferential statistics. Nakuha ninyo? Nasabtan ba nato ang pasabot sa inferential statistics? We are trying to dig deeper here. Another example is the same gihapon siya. Naatay mga lalaki ug babae nga empleyado, then we would like to know kinsa man ang mas ano sa ilaha, mas engaged sa work, mas ganahan mo trabaho, mas paspas mo submit og mga naipasubmit, naga-engage jud sila, part sila sa decision making. So those are the different items i-include sa questionnaires. So it turned out, applying also the significance, the difference between the two, the gender, using the t-test, ninggawas nga there is a significant difference. Mas taas ang level of engagement sa mga babae kaysa mga lalaki. So na-generalize na siya nga mas engaged ang mga female karon nga mga empleyado kaysa sa mga male nga empleyado. So that was the result of our study. So gi-present po din namo sa management, and then after that, dito na maghimog mga decision karon ang management, especially ang human resource department, kung unsa ang ilahang mga programs nga pwede nila ipa-implement para ma-address ni siya nga mga issues. So nakita ninyo ang gamit sa inferential statistics. Before we proceed, klaro ba ang explanation? Murag mingaw man ang kuan diri sa ato ang meeting room. I don't know if you can still hear me or wala na ba? Nag-record ba yata ani? Hello?
Sir, klaro po on my
Okay.
end.
Thank you so much, hello. Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's proceed. So that's inferential statistics, and this is actually part of your study. So sa senior high school mo, nag-conduct mo ani, I believe so, pero I don't know kung kamo ba jud mismo ang nag-calculate, nag-perform sa statistical treatment. Pag abot niyo karon sa college, undergraduate, you will have your thesis as well. So dapat kamo na, kabalo na mo perform ani. Inferential statistics is digging deeper. So generally, if we are going to relate descriptive statistics and inferential statistics, they are connected again. And then we are talking about sampling, kay again, ang population, daghan kayo siya. So, especially kung estudyante pa ka, kung tagaan mo questionnaire, tanan ang imuhang population, mahurot imong budget. So, sampling is a technique proven by statistician nga pwede siya magamit nga mahimo siyang conclusion to represent the voice of the population. Pero naatay mga different sampling techniques nga pwede na siya i-discuss if you are taking up statistics course. So usually ang pinaka-common ani kaning random sampling gani kanang everyone has the chance to be part of your study. Wala kay gipili pero naala kay limit nga number kay mao ra to siya ang pwede nimo tagaan. So that is the sample. Ang sample karon just like in the previous slide, kato siya ang katong mga numbers ngayon gi-compute. Mo tong ninggawas ang mean, and then after the mean, kwaon dayon ang number pila sila ka buok. And usually mo to siya ang ginagamit for the formula of the t-test if you are trying to find the difference, significant difference, or kung relationship ka, you are trying to find the correlation coefficient, the Pearson R nga measurement. So kato lang sila imong gamiton. Pero even though gamay lang imuhang data as compared sa population, again, conclusive gihapon siya. Kaya that will represent the responses of the population. So that is part of the inferential statistics. So ang imuhang generalization, usually mag-end man yun ang imuhang thesis, ang imuhang research into generalization. So even though dili tanan tao imong giadto, pero kato imuhang statement is applicable na to siya sa tanan. Generally na siya. So just like sa previous slide katong engagement, we can say na mas engage ang mga babae kaysa sa mga lalaki in that particular setting sa University of Mindanao. Pero pwede po ka mag-conduct og study sa other setting. Pero in the context of UM, generally, mo to siya aning gawas. Mas engage ang mga babaeng empleyado kaysa mga lalaki. So that is inferential statistics. We are drawing conclusion right now from the sample. Pero ang gigamit nato ng mga measures is the mean, katong mga average, part of descriptive statistics. So descriptive statistics is actually a springboard of inferential statistics. So that is how they are related to each other. Another difference, again, to summarize between the two, descriptive is all about collection, organization, summarization, and presentation. The first part of the definition of statistics of all your data or information that you obtain from a particular group. Kung daghan sila, you are getting a sample. From that collection of data, naghimo na kakarog generalization, you are making conclusion, and after that, pwede ka maghimo mga recommendations and decision. Di ba, para sa imong research, sa imong thesis, di ba naman kay recommendation dito. So dito na nga part, inferential statistics na to siya. Kaya naghimo naman kag decision and recommendation based on the results of your calculation. So making generalizations, prediction, or decision from the sample that you have used, representing the population, using hypothesis testing and determining relationships among the variables involved is already part of inferential statistics. And these two are actually not new to you because you have undergone already, I assume, research in your senior high school. So that is the first part of our discussion for tonight. Katong uban nga karon pa nagsulod, descriptive and inferential statistics, the two types or branches of statistics. Now let's consider the other concepts, population and sample. Nahatag naman nato ganina ang difference nilang duha, di ba? And I know you are already familiar with the difference between population and sample. Again, when we are talking about the overall individuals or group of interest of your research, so sila ang subject sa imong research, kinatibuk-an sa Bisaya, so population siya. If you are just getting parcel or portion, pwede mo po imuhang sample is dili tao, so part lang ato, then that will represent as the sample, as clearly presented in our picture in our diagram in this particular slide. So complete selection represents population, subset of the population, nagkuha lang ka out of that, kanila imong gikuha, and that will represent the voice of the population, that is the sample. That is very clear. So we have examples here. Population, for example, you have a research na kailangan mo i-consider ang mga opinion sa tanan residente sa Tagum. Pila man kabuk resident sa Tagum, and then kailangan mo humanon imong research kay kailangan pa nimo i-submit for decision making, for example sa mayor himo kag research. So it will not be easy kung sila tanan imuhang tagaan og survey questionnaires or imuhang i-interview. So you need to do sampling. So example, we have out of all the residents of Tagum City, you only have 50 residents karon sa Apocon, 150 from the Barangay Visayan Village, 100 from the Barangay Kanukutan. So this is an example of sample out of the population. Other examples, we have all employees in a particular mall. Pero kung mag-sampling lang ka, you may have 4 from the security department, 10 sa cashier, we have 12 janitors, and sales ladies, 50, and so on. And so on and so forth. So na-guess sa ninyo siya because I believe na-perform na po ninyo during your time na nag-sampling mo sa inyong research. So we will have a very, very short review exercise. Identify whether this is a population or sample. So number 1, kindly answer. I would like to hear murag bingaw mangud kaayo no. I will call. Let's have yes. Nag-raise og hand si Miss Delalamon. Go ahead, Miss Delalamon.
Sample, sir.
So we have a group of 25 students selected to test a new teaching technique. Very good. Sample. Next one. Next one is kisa to nag-raise, wala na ako nabasa ang pangalan. Nawala man good. Someone raised his or her hand and then nawala og kalit. I-raise again ang mong hand para ma-recognize because this is actually a recorded recitation. Yes, Miss Sonodan.
Sample, sir.
Okay, this is a sample. It's very clear na sample siya. The machines produced by 1 out of 3. So 1 out of 3. So dili tanan. So very good, Miss Sonodan. So we have Sonodan, we have Delalamon. How about the third one?
Wala po ang screen on my end, sir.
Okay, sige. Mawala-wala daw ang screen. Sorry. Okay. Siguro mawala siya kung tan-awon nako ang atoa ganing meeting room kung sinag-raise og hand. So ibalik lang nako. So I hope na klaro nakita na ninyo no. So I would like to check kung naabay nag-raise og hand for this particular item. Pero I can see na mga answers sa chat box nato. We have sample the yearly expenditures of food for 10 families. So it's very clear, only 10 families. So very few siya. So maybe represent lang siya sa isa ka purok. So this is a sample. Next. Miss Batukan.
Set po, sir.
Again, that is
Population po.
population. The ages of employees in all companies in the Philippines. So we can see na tanan, all companies in the Philippines. So population is correct. So that's Miss Batukan. Recorded already. How about, yes, thank you so much for the answers. I can read the answers on chat box. Population. The number of subscribers sa Sartagoda. Miss Sartagoda.
Population, sir.
Population also because we are talking about all telephone companies nationwide. So kuhaon nato pila ang subscribers nila sa diha nato kung sa ilang mga subscriber pila dito mga bata, pila yung mga tigulang, pila ang middle age and so on. So that is population. So let's move on. After the population and sample, and after knowing also the difference between inferential statistics and descriptive statistics, we'll proceed to the variables. Common man siya because we are actually dealing with this when we are trying to make our study, our research, or even our katong mga focus group discussion natin mga field of interest or characteristic of interest na gina-focus atong study. So that is actually the variable. Variable is a characteristic of interest concerning the individual elements of a population or sample. So we will have an example or more than that. Daghan ni siya nga examples para mas maklaro nato unsay mga example ani. Okay, we also have another term, unit. Unit and variable are different. Unit is a single entity, usually a person or an object whose characteristics are of interest. So in our end, naghimo naman ta og research, all of us, kaning unit kay mo ni siya ang ato ang subject. Kinsa atong studyhan ani, mo ni siya ang unit. Ang variable is unsa nga characteristics sa ilaha ang pwede nato studyhan. So to make it clear, mo na siya ang table to set the difference between unit and variables. For example, na kay ginakandak na study. Estudyante imuhang unit of interest. So kani sila ang imuhang subject, research subject. Unsa dito nga mga variables ang pwede nimo studyhan concerning students. So you can actually differentiate the students according to gender. So gender is a variable. Age, laylai sila age. Laylai po sila year level. So these are the variables. A student can have one program, the other one like yung program or course or degree. So that's another variable. Pwede po siya session, kay ubang kay morning session, afternoon or evening session. So those are some of the examples of variables for the student. So to check kung nasabtan ninyo, who can give me another one which is not part of the list? If our unit of interest is student, what can be another variable that we can study about them? Mr. Polinario, you're raising your hand.
Wala.
Sir,
Ano na lang po,
sige,
sir.
go ahead.
Ano po, sir, address po.
Address. Tama ba kung nadunggan? Address?
Yes po, sir. Or ano, sir, if the student is, ano, sir, candidate ba nag-leave sa ilang parents po?
Very good. So you can have residence. Kung residence man good kay murag very ano siya daghan kay siya. Pwede man nimo i-define. So the residency, it can be living with parent, living with other relatives. Siguro na siya sa city nagpuyo tapos silang balay is na sa province. So that is a good example, Mr. Polinar. So I think you really understood the meaning of variable. Do we have other? Yes, Miss Carriedo, you would like to add the answer of Mr. Polinar. We are still under the first unit of interest student. Shello,
I think we can add po the socio-economic status of the student.
very good. That is another variable of your study. So tanaw nimo estudyante imong unit of interest. Siguro you are talking about the academic achievement of the students. Karon gusto nimo hibalaan ang variable imong gusto studyhan is dahil lahi ibang ilahang academic achievement in terms of their social status, economic status, kung naba siya sa average level, above average, in terms of that. So pwede kaayos siya. That's a good example of a variable. Moving forward, I think wala na yung mag-share og answers about this one. We still have more naman. You can add sa atong second level, second example for the unit of interest. For example, boarding house ang imuhang gusto sadihan. Boarding house, personally, kung ikaw, gikan ka sa other places, tapos gusto ka moadto sa isa ka place, tapos wala mo ibalay dito, mo man isadihan po nimo, di ba? Boarding house, unit of interest boarding house. So what are the variables that you need to, siguro, sadihan nimo sa boarding house? Pwede ang rent nila per month, lahi ang rent nila. Ang size sa imong boarding house, the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms. So those are the variables. Miss Delalamon, what can you add? And then Shello will also would like to answer after Delalamon. Delalamon first.
Location, sir.
Location, very good. Diba? So sa may mga preferences ninyo, location, naa ba siya sa heart of the city or naa ba siya 1 kilometer from your school or naa ba siya dito sa area nga kanang peaceful kayo siya nga area nga layo sa civilization, things like that. So that is a good variable. How about Shello? Aside from location.
Ay, na-answer na po ni Miss Delalamon po.
Okay. So location also or sa pailaing pwede ani. Galot.
Kung sir, if dili flood prone area ang isa ka boarding house.
Pwede kuan siguro siya in terms of safety, di ba? The safety or napay mga better terminology for that. So pwede na siya i-include nimo sa imong variables in terms of safety. Pwede nimo i-define dito sa imong research, flood prone ba ni siya or ano ba siya, earthquake proof ba siya? So na yung mga inaanang mga criteria nga pwede nimo i-add. So thank you for your ideas. Recorded tanan mga answers ninyo. Thank you so much. Let's have another one. Political candidate. Mo na imuhang interest kay hapit na election. So unsa yung mga variables nga pwede nimo pilay edad nila, unsa nga political party sila na belong, gender, unsay occupation nila, who can add? Odensha, Mr. Odensha.
Ano sir, educational background sir.
Pwede. Sa ilang nahuman, di ba? Naman ko yung mga political candidate nga nahuman og mga PhD, mga doctorate level. Naapoy uban ni elementary graduate lang, di ba? Or level lang kay ang uban. Pero in terms of performance, we don't know. We need to conduct a research kung nabay significant difference ang ilang performances. But that is a good answer, Mr. Odensha. Recorded also. How about katong nag-raise ganina nangawal ang kamot? The same answer lang siguro. Yes, Polinar. Before we proceed with the last one, kaning last one kay wala jud siya example kamo mahatagani. Yes, sir, Mr.
And
Polinar.
candidate has a prior background kana na siya
Ah,
nakaserve na siya sa government
experience.
or kanang ano po.
You are talking about the length of service niya sa government siguro or experience niya, number of years handling a job as a politician. So na may uban nga bag-o pa, napay wala pila pa ka tuig, napoy uban nga pila na sila ka dekada. So that is a variable that we can consider. How about, yes, Miss Tesoro, location, ganina din siyang answer yata. Political candidate, pwede ba location? Pwede. Kung aha siya nga location ng dagan, pwede na to siya i-validate. Miss Tesoro,
Sir, platform, sir.
pwede. Unsa iyahang platform. So, pwede po siya connected sa iyahang party, di ba? Usually, ang mga party naman sila mga sariling platform. Pero that is considered. Shelo,
Family background or family lineage po.
pwede. We're talking about lineage, daghan magong mga gikan sa political dynasty, di ba? For example, puros na mga Estrada diri nga part. Diri kay pwede na pud mga Robredo diri nga part, kani mga Duterte ni siya nga area diri, kani and so on and so forth. So that is a good variable if you are studying this kind of unit political candidate. Pero how about karon gipanggutom naman kasagaran, di ba? Kung ato ang unit of interest restaurant, or siguro kamo magtukod mo restaurant, unsa mga variables ang atong i-consider? Let's have Miss Dela Lamon and then Caballero.
Sir, the menu, sir, or the bestseller food.
Very good. Pwede na siya. Unsay naa diri sa ilahang nga gi-serve menu nga wala dito sa ilaha. Yes. The next one is Caballero.
Sir, ano po, price po, sir, or price range?
Very good price range sa ilahang mga food. That's good. Kaya pwede mo nimo i-compare lang mas barato diri mas mahal, pero in terms of taste pwede po na siya. Next is Sunodan.
Sir, location, sir, kung kanang ibaligya or ay kanang magibaligya, sir, kung kuan ba sa mga tao, sir?
Pwede. Pwede location kay dapat located ang imong restaurant. Located ba siya dool sa school? Located ba siya dool sa mga kaning mga government offices? Na mga ana di ba napoy mga restaurant nga layo-layo siya. So napud siya mga factors nga pwede nimo tan-awon that can affect the result of your study. Very good. How about Sartagoda and then Polinar and Carriedo? Sartagoda first.
Services, sir.
Services, siguro i-assess nimo ang quality sa service na ginahatag sa mga waitress, mga waiter, and even sa ilahang mga staff. That's good. Polinar.
Food na sample food or Filipino food lang ba anak po, sir?
Kung usa nga cuisine ilahang ginakuan na nabatay mga Thai diri or Korean ba or Filipino, that can be another set of variables nga different kato sa menu nga gi-present ganina ni Miss Dela Lamon. Carriedo, Shelo.
Ano po, trend.
Trend, so can you elaborate how will we define trend?
Trend or ang basis sa popularity po sa ilang gina-offer na service po in general.
Okay. So murag unsa ang unique sa ilaha, unsa ilahang gina-offer nga wala gina-offer sa uban. Pwede po din ana. Na may uban mga restaurant kay nag-trending po, di ba? Nga actually na-feature ang ilahang services sa mga different mga magazine show. So siguro mo ito ang pasabot ni Ms. Carriedo. And finally, we have last two, Batukan and Sunodan.
Sir, equipment po.
Equipment, kung unsa ilahang ginagamit nga, unsa
Yes
ba?
po. Gikan sa mga
Sa mga utensils nila
wares
or
po, kitchenwares po.
namagay uban nga ang ilahang
Sa
ginagamit
mga
is dahon, di ba?
Yes
Dahon
po.
sa saging, ang uban kay mahalon ng mga plato, things like that. Very good idea, Miss Batukan. Finally, Miss Sunodan,
Cleanliness.
the cleanliness also, pwede nimo siya tanawon. And I have read a lot of answers also sa chat. And Miss Tesoro, nabilin si Miss Tesoro, murag wala na tawag, but you raise your hand. Pwede ka muhabol og answer. For the restaurant as a unit of interest, aside from those mentioned variables, unsa ang naan sa imuha nga idea nga wala pa na mention?
Kuan sir, customers taste and preferences po.
Okay. So, pwede po ka mag-conduct og survey, di ba, sa preferences sa mga
Yes sir.
customer. Okay. So, I think, klaro na sa inyo ha, di ba, unsay pasabot sa unit of interest and variables. And when we talk about variables, usually, ang ato ang gina-collect sa ato ang research, quantitative variable mo nang nagina-quantify yun nato siya. So quantitative, as we all know, it is represented by numbers. So pwede siya ma-describe into numerical value. And when we talk about quantitative variable, na siya two classifications. It can be discrete or continuous. So these are the terms that we need to understand. Kay part na po ni siya sa common knowledge nga dapat nato mahibalaan even though we are not major in math. Discrete o continuous, dapat common na ni siya nga language atua. So when we talk about discrete, katong represented siya by counting numbers, dili siya pwede himuong fraction, dili siya pwede i-express as decimal because these are countable. What are the examples of discrete variables? For example, the number of teachers in that particular college. So di ba ka pwede mo hatag og 5.5 kabuk ang teachers diha kay dili man pwede i-count as decimal ang teacher. So that is an example of discrete variable. Another one is the number of books. When you are counting the number of books, dapat ang result is a counting a natural number. Number of students and so on. So we have only 3 examples here. Who can add another example of a discrete variable? Aside from the number of teachers, the number of books, the number of students, kanang dili siya pwede gani tagaan og butal or decimal. The number of children, di ba? Or the number of refrigerators. Kung sa nakita ninyo karon diri, di ba pwede na siya tunga-tungaon. So these are discrete variables. On the other hand, continuous variables are those that can assume any numerical value over an interval or several intervals. Sa pasabot ani in layman's term, kani siya pwede na nimo siya express nga more accurately nga na kay mga decimal point, na kay mga fractional part, because these are the results of accurate measurements. So what are the examples of this? Height of the person, di ba? Kung i-express mo imong height as feet, tapos dapat siya kuan mga butal-butal, feet, and then inches, or in centimeters, tapos siya mga point something. So this is an example of a continuous variable. The same with the cholesterol reading, even the income of an employee, kay naman siya ma-express man po na siya as peso and centavo. So that is a good example. I can also read an example of Mr. Anting, number of survivors. Pila ka buok ang nabuhi. So especially karon di ba nga na mga statistics ginapakita sa news, mo ni siya karon ang naka-recover sa katong disease, sa COVID-19 for example, mo ni siya nabuhi, mo po ni siya namatay. So the numbers are all counting numbers. So Mr. Anting, that is a good example of a discrete variable. Grades of students, I think you are trying to refer this, Ms. Tesoro, sa continuous grades sa students. Pero sa UM, ang final grade ninyo is, kuan man siya, di ba? Kaning whole number ba inyo ha karon? You are under the new grading system. So pwede siya ma-argue, we can also relate that, depende sa grading system, pwede siya discrete. Pero kung magkuha na taog average ninyo, so usually kung overall or weighted average na dun siya, kung for example graduating na mo, identify kung you are running for an honor, magna cum laude ba ka, summa cum laude or what. So kana siya, ang result will be more accurate na siya, so that can be continuous variable. Okay. So I think we are at the end of our discussion, these are just part of the general knowledge na kailangan nato mahibalan when we are studying statistics. So kung natay quanti, those are numbers. Quali, the qualitative variables are those which cannot be expressed as numbers. So katong gipang mention ganina nga mga gender, even mga quality of service, ang menu nila, ang ilang location, those are examples of qualitative variable. Ang answer ato kay dili ma-express into numbers, and this is related to kato atong previous lesson about kato kani mga different levels of measurement, nominal, things like that. I hope that's clear with you. So do you have any questions about our lesson for tonight? We will meet tomorrow pa ha, because wala man ta naka-meet gahapon Monday. So mo ni siya ang ato ang murag tapal sa Monday, and then we will meet again tomorrow. And tomorrow we will have the